Everything changed when war reached the Americas. Caught between the French and the British, my family paid the price. Only my darling Sarah survived. They took her away. We couldn't save them, but we will save her. 5 men against thousands, how can it be done?
Guys, I noobed it. I noobed it hardcore. You're welcome.
Be done. Blame the dog. She pressed the space bar.
Guys, I noobed it. I noobed it hardcore. You're welcome.
Blame the dog. She pressed. Oh, you have to put on some headphones, Megan. We can hear you echoing. See my little earbuds? You have to put on some headphones, Megan.
Oh my god.
It's okay. We can hear you echoing. There you go. It's called the Noob, guys.
Hold on.
So hello, everyone. While Megan gets her headphones on. Hope you guys are doing well. Lily's in my lap. So this is my dog, Lily. She's a Jatese. A Jatese is half Japanese chin, half Maltese. When all else fails, always have a dog or a baby. It will help, keep people's attention. They're always entertaining. What's up, Shadow Punk? What's up, Dojo Kun? Hello, Jaden. Is it Jaden? Jaden Hamilton. What's up, Jinja Ninja? Black B-Rose. All right. B-Rose in the chat. Who else is here? All right, guys. Well, while we wait for Megan, I hope you can hear me. Can everyone hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. This is the latest issue of War Party. Issue 4 just shipping out this week. Actually, it's probably going to be shipping out the next 2 or 3 weeks because fulfillment takes a long time. I'm getting close to 2,000 backers, so it's a lot. You're a bit soft. Thank you. All right, well, I will turn up the juice. All right.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh
I
my
can.
god.
Perfect. I kept them entertained as best I could. They said I'm a little soft, so I'm turning the input up a little bit. There we go. Hello, Megan.
Oh, hi everyone. Welcome to the Noob reviews. Wow.
I wouldn't have it any other way. This is great. See, that'll never happen again. That's the good news. So you've gotten through that part. It's
Do you know what I did?
What did you do?
I was using OBS Studios today.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a little different than StreamYard. But see, this is what's great. Like, I'm a singer, and a lot of times when you're about to sing a really hard song, you're so afraid you're going to crack. And then if you do crack on a note or hit a bad note, then all of a sudden you relax the rest of the song because the crack is out of the way. So that's true. Kind of what happened. You're like, now you can just relax and have fun. The worst is over.
The worst is over.
Yeah.
I'm having feedback. Are you having feedback? Anybody else?
No, I'm not. Sounds good to me. Are you hearing yourself echoing in your headphones?
Mm-hmm. I'm hearing us again. It's weird.
You probably make sure you have YouTube closed. Make sure you don't have YouTube open on your computer because you will hear YouTube. You could be hearing YouTube at the same, as a delay. So mute YouTube.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, they all say it's good.
Guys, I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh. That was funny. I'm never using OBS Studios again.
I'll show you something really cool. This is my copy. There were only 10 of these that were made. This was 11. Only 10 that I sold, but that's the Diane action figure.
Look at her.
Yeah. Real feathers.
Who made these? Like, is this?
I painted them, but I had someone stitch like the costume. I had another guy make. This is real steel.
Oh my gosh.
Make the tomahawks.
That's
She's
beautiful.
12 inches. Pretty cool. And
She's wearing more clothes, I noticed, than in
fully-
the comic book.
not really.
Okay.
and the feathers are just covering. See, it's paint. You know.
Did you know the funny thing is, when I was reading that comic book, the first two I read, and I was like, she would be a really cool cosplay. And so then I actually looked, and I was like, oh, she's actually.
Well, here's the way I look at it. You could do it, but what you'd have to do, obviously, I mean, you'd have to cover the back, so you probably have to wear a flap on the back. And as far as this goes, I kind of you know how people wear those body paint. It would take a very, very confident girl to go out in public like this.
Yeah, I just don't think I can do that.
But you know, it would be kind of like wearing a Mystique outfit. You know how they did with Angela, or not Angela Jolie, whatever her name was, Romaine Stamos. How they put the pasties on her or whatever. It would definitely be risque. But I think with the paint on and everything, you know, and the back covered, it wouldn't be that bad. I've seen worse at conventions.
Well, would they let you in though? Like, I don't know. I don't know if I'd be let in.
They let in pretty risque costumes.
Maybe you'd be safe if you go with the bodysuit and then you paint over top of it. You know.
Thanks, Phil. Please sub to Murf. Yeah. And
Phil is awesome.
Sub to Noob. Oh, he must already be subbed to you.
He is. Phil's the man.
Cool.
There's a lot of people in here. I'm just gonna say hi to a few people, and then we're gonna ask you a bunch of questions.
Sure.
Okay. Jacob, you were not the first. Heron was here first, but you were second, so good job. We have Hail the Lore. We have Black Rose Comics. Thank you for being here.
Rose.
Ginger Ninja. He's working on his own comic book, actually. Cool. Yes, I was on a stream with him this morning. Dojo Kun Comics. Hail
Dojo.
We have Phil, of course, being wonderful. We have Paul. Oh, I'm sorry you're not feeling well, Paul. Thanks for dropping by, though. And I'm feeling much better. Thank you. Shadow Punk. This will start in 10 seconds. Okay, 60. Okay, I'm sticking. Thank you, Shadow
Well
Punk.
played.
Heron, she's here. Wow. Jaden Hamilton. I don't understand, but thanks. Rogue is here. Oh, he says you're a bit soft.
Yeah, he told me to turn it up. I juiced it a little, so we should be good.
We have Killer Squid. We have a bunch of people. Thank you, everybody. So this is Professor Murf, and yours is the first indie comic I have ever bought in my life, actually.
Wow.
I had somebody, I think it was Daniel, who recommended it to me. He recommended a couple, and I went on, and yours was the one I chose to buy because the art was, like, for me, when I pick up a comic book, it's the art that grabs me first.
Yeah.
You know, and then you kind of read it or you look through it and you go, oh, this is a good story. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes me buy it. So for me, it was your art that grabbed me first.
There's a lot of good artists I'm competing with, so that's a compliment. I'm honored.
But also, I'm not American. So your story is set during the 7 Years War, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, in Ohio of all places. Actually, that's where my husband was born and raised. Wow. Yeah. So I'm not familiar exactly with that because I'm Canadian. I'm like aware of it, and some of that war stretched up into Canada a little bit. Yeah,
quite a bit.
But this is set in Ohio, and how much of the history did you like? How much did you study into the history, or how much did you already know? How big into history are you?
Quite a bit.
I feel you're really big into history.
I mean, that's all honestly, most of the comics I've ever done have all been history, usually Civil War. That's my specialty. That's sort of my focus, American Civil War. But I love Revolutionary War. French and Indian, I probably know the least of the three, but it's the French and Indian War in America was just kind of like a backwater. Like the 7 Years' War was mainly in Europe. This was just, struggle over the colonies kind of thing,
Right.
but it wasn't really their top priority. And there were no rules, and I always loved the movie, like I mentioned in the opening of issue 1, Last of the Mohicans. Love that movie. And I just love the brutality of it, the fact that there's just no, it's every man, woman, child for themselves, and there's just nobody coming to your rescue. So putting werewolves and were-gators and were-jaguars and all this sort of thing in that sort of setting to me seemed like a cool mix, horror, fantasy, that type of stuff.
It really is, because you hear about skinwalkers or the native peoples having sort of spirit animals. How much did you look into all of that?
It's weird because that...
Is it hard to find information on that?
No, but it was passed down orally, like tradition, so there's not enough stuff written about it. But I had studied it a lot with the whole Celtic tradition, because the Celts believe that too. I mean, they had berserkers where they put on the bear outfits and they they drink some kind of funky juice, get a little woo, and they go out there and it helped them fight. Now the Native Americans were a little different because they literally believed that the spirit of the animal was in their body. Like I think they were believing they were actually transforming into these things. And of course, that's where the Wendigo comes from. The Wendigo is a skinwalker that gave into dark magic and resorted to cannibalism, ate other people, and became evil. And I do have 2 characters. If you got issue 0, they're introduced in issue 0. Husband and wife team.
That just got delivered to my house.
Yeah, those
yesterday.
2 are practitioners of dark magic, and actually they're the ones who gave the shape-shifting power to this other Indian named Tohopka, who Diane was in love with when she was 15.
Right.
She was much younger. He's the one that gave her the shape-shifting power. So she's always had the ability to not age, because I mentioned what that is in 0. Or she ages, but very slowly. 1 year to R50 biologically. So every 50 years, 2 centuries go by, she's aged 2 biological years. So she lives quite a long time. But anyways, the magic has its roots in dark magic, the magic she has in her. But of course, she's not dark. She's a good soul, good spirit. So she's carrying around this heavy power, so to speak. And I just thought this would be a great story to take her through different time periods, and she helps different people with different problems, whether it's, James trying to rescue his daughter or this or that. She assembles different war parties throughout time. So she's the only the constant through, because I'm going to do other series and other time periods with her. Yeah, so she's and it's weird because when I created her, she was going to be a side character. She was going to be a supporting character.
Really?
And I was just going to focus on the brothers. But she started the more I was writing, I was like, she's the lead character. Like it dawned on me when I was in the middle of writing issue 2, honestly. I was like, I need to make Diane my main IP and build everything else around her.
Does that happen a lot when you're writing, that like you have this
Not
plan,
a lot. No, usually
and then it changes?
Usually you stick with the plan. Like this is the first time that's ever happened to me. Like I did not,
Wow.
because I didn't set out and go, I've got to have a female lead, like, and she must be a minority, yeah, none of that. It was the story told me where to go, and that's how you're listening to it, is when you just let the characters sort of develop the way they are. When you read issue 4, you'll get a lot more insight into one of the brothers, John, the oldest brother. He's super religious. He's the most religious of the 3 brothers, and he doesn't want to do this thing. Like he basically is like, I'm not doing this, because he's clinging to his cross, because he believes, this is paganism. If I turn into this creature, I'm going to lose my soul. He believes that. So they're having a hard time convincing him, even though it means saving his niece. They're having a hard time. He's like, I'll go in with musket. I'll go fight traditionally, but I'm not doing this thing. So, that makes him, in my opinion, a much more interesting character, because not everybody would want to go along with this. Some people be like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. He's got that personal inward struggle.
Right.
Basically.
Right. And he's a supporting character. I mean, he's not like the lead. But if you can make supporting characters like that interesting, of course, you've got Thomas, the guy that turns into the gator. He's boffing the lieutenant colonel's wife, and they're in love with each other. So he's, the whole thing. He's like a scoundrel, and he's not trustworthy. He's kind of slithery and slimy, which I was like, he's got to be the gator, right?
Oh yeah.
He's got that reptilian thing going on.
Oh man, so fun. Dojo-kun Comics, if you don't mind the boomerang, can we request a spot on your show? Sure you can, as long as you don't mind the boomerang.
Megan's an up-and-comer, Dojo-kun. Channel's gonna
I'm
be
gonna
big in
get
a
it
couple
together,
years.
I promise.
I predict 1,000 subscribers in a year.
Aw.
Yeah,
I had a goal of getting to 500 by the end of this year. I think we're gonna make it.
I think
So that's my goal. Sometime. Whoa! They just jumped. Holy hand grenades! Hello. Thanks for coming. We have changed me into a badger.
That's funny. A badger. There is a badger in this series. The little Indian boy.
Yes.
Tarlo. He's a badger. He's a werebadger.
I
If
was
you have
hoping-
the handbook,
I have the handbook.
he's in there. He's in there
Guys,
as a badger.
this is so cool. Okay, I realized while I was flipping through this, that there are stickers.
Yes, for other campaigns. So what I wanted to do is make like a book that you could add to. So as the next campaign comes out, there'll be a set of stickers with bios and characters, and you can stick them in that book as I create them.
Now you've got me hooked, and I have to buy all the things. Actually, this is what you do. You send links to your family and your husband and your friends, and you're like, so, this is really cool. And actually, I'm trying to get my husband to read these because he loves history, and all these books behind us are history. And I was like, you're really going to like this. He's not a fantasy person, though.
Right.
So, but I was like,
There's about 50-50. It's about 50-50
it's
history.
50-50, and it's a good mix that like you can get into it, and you obviously have done your research, so you're not doing anything that's glaringly going to be annoying for a history person or right.
Yeah, I tried to keep it. It's tricky because like that fort that burns down in issue 3 when he destroys the fort, that is the same site that God, it's escaping me now. Not Defiant. It's the fort that George Washington. I think George Washington was there, and they tore it down. And then there was nothing there, so I basically said, well, what if they rebuilt a fort, and I'll just call it Fort Rolfe, which is after the colonel.
Yeah.
So then it gets burned down again. so it doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's I tried to like see where troop movements were. So like they would know. It would kind of make sense a little bit, like where would the French army be, where would the English army be, and if they had to come together to fight this force. And I just kind of going to treat it as if this whole thing sort of fell into legend. In other words, hey, what's up, Rob Replicator? Rob Arnold, thanks for dropping in, man. Rob's one of my Australian buddies.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Wow, all over from Australia.
Check out Replicator. It's his book. It's on Indiegogo. He's on issue 3, I think, now.
Replicator.
So, 3 or 4, Rob. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I write everything down right there.
It's a great book. Awesome art.
Okay.
Yeah, there's all sorts of fighting in this, and it's gonna get more intense because by the time I get to issue 5 and 6, there's wholesale battles with hundreds of troops and artillery and horses, cavalry, and it's gonna take a long time to draw the last 2 issues. I'm just letting that out there, guys.
Because you have had some battles, and they've been very intense, especially with the art. Like, it can be, pretty graphic at times, which I don't mind. But
the biggest one yet is they're storming the fort in this issue.
Oh, yeah.
So each one gets
like
bigger.
They've been smaller sort of groups, right?
Yeah, but it's getting bigger and bigger. I keep escalating it, and what's great is the way, as I've been writing it, each time I read the next issue, I'm like, this one's better than the last one, and then I'm like 4's better than 3, and then 5's better than 4, and then I think 6 is better than 5. So it really does escalate, which is what you want when you're writing stuff like this. You want to keep upping the stakes, and the reader just getting heavy, involved in it more heavily as they go along.
We have a question. What's the technique for drawing large-scale battles with many characters?
Have no social life. Don't sleep. Drink lots of coffee. That's my technique. There's no quick way to do it. You have to just. I mean, you can copy and paste and flip things. Like if you have like lots of troops in a formation, then yeah, you can like alternate and copy and paste because they're all kind of marching the same. But you can only do that so much because number one, you don't want the reader to. You don't want it to be obvious you're doing that.
Yeah.
And number two, everyone's kind of different. So even if you do copy and paste it, you might have to change a hat or shift a rifle higher or move an arm so that it doesn't look like, like clones. But there's no quick way to do that. I did a 200-page graphic novel called Claiborne. It was a Civil War novel, and the last 30 or 20 or 30 pages was the Battle of Franklin, and I had to draw ranks and ranks and ranks of Federal and Confederate troops all over the place, and it took forever. I mean, it took me like almost 2 years to draw the book.
Holy crap.
Yeah. And I mean, this one's going about as slow. But I mean, when you think about it, if you add all 6 issues, that's 160 pages. And that's not counting the handbook, which I had to do. That's not counting issue 0. That's not counting Diane's War Diary, which I'm also going to be doing, which has 15 pinups in it.
Ooh.
Which that's coming out probably about the same time issue 5. What I'm thinking about doing is shipping 5 and the diary together and then shipping 6 again. So that that might be 2 more fulfillments, or I might just wait and ship all 3 together. It's going to depend on how long it's going to take, because I mean, it's already been a year. People have been waiting for about a year since I shipped issue 3. So that's how long it's taken me to do 0 and 4. But I am picking up speed. This year was tricky because when you do crowdfunding, you've never done a book before. Because I've done crowdfunding, I've never done comics. Well, I've done comics, but not crowdfunded comics. It's a totally different animal, because just shipping out the books and fulfilling, I mean, you got to write off a good month or 2 just for logistics. Forget working on the book. Just a couple months of just doing business stuff. Yeah. No, it's not my first comic. Actually, my first comic was published when I was 17 in 1992. It was distributed through Diamond Comics. The same time Image launched. It was a Civil War series, and I ran it for about 5 years. Sold in the comic book stores and everything. And then I came back to comics in 2008 with Claiborne, my graphic novel. That was also distributed through Diamond to the comic stores. Then I did another book called Holidays, which is a comedy book, kind of like a Peanuts thing. And then now I'm back with War Party. And by the way, Diamond I just signed a deal with Diamond. Starting December, they're going to be carrying issue 1 in the comic stores. Now the good news, the good news is you're all going to get your books first. So by the time issue 1 hits the stores, it's going to be December. You're already going to be getting. Ha ha ha. There's guys that have published younger than me. I don't know, 17 is pretty young. But no, what's cool is, it's going to be in comic stores, and there's mixed feelings about that. I know some people are like, comic stores are over, just crowdfund, and I don't agree.
No.
I don't agree.
I love going into a comic book store. We have
not only that, but
here
there's
in my
people
town.
I know that only go to comic stores. They don't buy comics online. They want to buy them in the stores.
Yeah.
And if this can get in the hands of someone through a store that may never have gotten it otherwise, I want to get as many readers as possible. So right now I'm looking at it like almost like a marketing expense, because to make money in the comic stores, you got to do high volume, because you have to sell this for 40% of what the cover price is, right?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's all I get, 40%. Because the retailer gets a cut and the distributor gets a cut. But, there's been a resistance from retailers and distributors to acknowledge crowdfunded books. This is between me and Rob. He saw the gray one day in my hair, and he's been going on and on and on about how old I am. So Rob, our joke with Rob is he's not very smart, and his joke with me is I'm old. But yeah. So anyways, the what was I getting at? Oh, retailers and distributors. It's been a hard time getting them to sort of accept comics that are crowdfunded as legit. There was a while they weren't considered legitimate comic books. It was like, well, that's crowdfunded. It's not in the stores. Who cares? So I'm trying to sort of slip in that market as well, and just get War Party in both arenas. So we'll see how it goes.
That. I like that, because there is something about going into a comic book store and like I don't know. I like the way books smell. And just being able to like talk to people that are there and like hold it in your hand and kind of flip through it and really just pick it off the shelf for yourself, you know? Like there's something it's cool to get stuff in the mail, but I find it way more fun to just be able to like hold that in your hand and pick it off the shelf for yourself. Like you
Yeah.
found it yourself.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
they're all means of distribution. That's the way I look at it. Whether somebody I know personally just comes over to the house and they see the book and they buy it and I give it to them, whether somebody backs it online, orders it on eBay, orders it from the website, or buys it in a comic store, it's all distribution. You're just trying to reach people. So I don't think you should just use one avenue. I think you should use whatever's available. And I would, I'd tell a lot of my creator friends, I'm like, look, as long as comic books are being sold in comic book stores, this is going to be there. Like, I'm going to make sure this is there.
Yeah.
There's no reason why it shouldn't be, just because it's a crowdfunded book. The difference is you have to offer a different cover, which was funny because the thing
Right.
you use for your thumbnail,
Yeah.
that's the wraparound cover for issue 1 for the retailers. So that the issue 1 will have a totally different cover for the retail version.
I'm gonna have to get it. That's cool, Shadowpunk. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. Congratulations, man.
That is awesome. Zax jumped in. Oh, I have a question from Heron of Alexandria. Did you study the weapons
Nice.
of the period? I have a French model 1754 replica musket.
Yeah,
Wow.
weapons and uniforms are like the first things I usually study because I'm really into military history, honestly. That's really the part of history that interests me. I like the uniforms, I like the guns, the flintlock muskets, things like that. Yeah, to me, that's what makes it, interesting. Is I used to read a comic called The Nam back in the 90s. It was a Vietnam
Okay.
comic book. And Michael Golden, I noticed this as a, 12-year-old kid. He would make all the M16s accurate. He'd make all the Huey helicopters, everything, the uniforms, everything in the comic was super accurate. And I noticed it. I was like, look at the detail he's putting in these weaponry and the guns. And like some guys had M14s, some had M16s. Everything was, and he would get flack at Marvel. They'd be like, why are you spending all this time? Just draw a gun. Nobody
Yeah.
cares. He's like, just put a tank there. He's like, Sherman tanks. There weren't any Sherman tanks in Vietnam.
Yeah.
That's World War II. Like, what are you? So, but I noticed that and I appreciated that. And a weird thing about accuracy is even if the reader doesn't know those things, like doesn't know what they are, what they look like, they can still tell you did the work. Like it's obvious to them when you see a
Yeah.
really authentic movie, you can tell they put time into the uniforms and the costumes and the weapons and the settings and things like that.
Exactly.
So
People,
it's important.
people appreciate that for sure. Ha ha, Ginger Ninja.
By the way, if your husband likes history, tell him to check out Claiborne because that's
Oh,
all
I
history.
will.
There's
I
no
will, yeah.
fantasy in it at all. It's a war. It's a war story.
He was he was in university studying to be a history teacher.
Oh,
And then he
okay.
just decided that that wasn't what he wanted to do. But yeah, what do we call more parties were serious shit?
This is their own war party.
Prefer going to the
Yeah.
comic book shop. Yeah, see,
Well, they're
all
gonna
of
be
us.
there. They're gonna be. I've got ad. I got a full page. Diamond gave me a full page ad in the back cover previews. So I mean, I had to pay for it, but my point is,
Yes.
I got the spot, and they're doing a story on it. They're sending out press releases. They're really working hard to promote it, because DC and Marvel aren't carried by Diamond anymore. So it's just Image, Dark Horse, and all the smaller publishers. Dynamite, Boom, DC and Marvel are distributed by other distributors now. So
Oh,
what's good about that is now the attention is on us because Diamonds, they want to make money, they want to sell books. They have to put more effort and attention into the smaller guys now because Marvel and DC are gone. So
wow,
it's good news for us,
that
actually.
is good news.
Yeah.
Whoa, it jumped. Had to look up the history of the tin can for my comic.
It's crazy.
great.
Everything. I was drawing a horse trough the other day and I was like, well, what would a horse trough look like in the 1750s? It wouldn't look like a horse trough today. I mean,
That's
yeah, they're both
true.
made out of wood, but so you got to dig, and the internet makes that really easy because it's just I used to have to collect books and books and books and flip through them, and now I can just do searches and find the stuff really quickly.
That's true. I never would have thought like Yeah,
Yeah,
that's so
it's
many little tiny details that you wouldn't think that you would have to.
even the way women did their hair. I mean,
Mhm.
it's crazy. Just little things like that. What dresses look like that what the women wore, the
Yep.
shoes. You got to research everything because you can't assume anything.
Yes. And that, of course, like the one thing, if you were, because people are like this, it's funny. The one thing maybe you wouldn't research, everybody's going to see it. And they're going to
That
know.
happened to me in Claiborne. I
Yes.
when the guy fired one of the cannons, they would put a fuse in the cannon and it would have a primer on it, and they'd pull the thing and the fuse would ignite and blast through. When I drew the primer chain coming out, I left the fuse on it, and it doesn't. It stays in the cannon, but I had it
Okay.
still attached to the fuse up in the air. And
And
he's like,
someone noticed.
yeah, this one reenactor who's a friend of mine. First thing he says to me, so I read Claiborne. I was expecting, oh yeah, it's great. I really love it. Well, you know that page where you got the cannon firing? You left a fuse on the primer chain. I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you?
Oh,
That's
the
what you're gonna tell me?
smallest.
Yeah, but that's what they'll do. That's
Yes.
literally what they'll do.
Oh, man. What's your secret sauce for having so many backers?
Well, there's a lot of things. Number one, you know how like small bands would play small clubs, but they would hustle. They play a lot of clubs. That's what I've done. I've played a lot of small clubs. I did what we're doing here on
Mhm.
lots of channels for a solid year and a half. That's number one. So
Wow.
exposure. Number
Yeah.
two, I have a lot of add-ons and secret perks. I have a lot of repeat backers. So even though it says I'm about to hit 2,000, it's not 2,000 individuals. That's 2,000 backings. So I've
Mm,
got some people who've backed this thing, different add-ons and things at different times, 4 and 5 times in some cases. So what I've found, what people want is they want content. In other words, they want more story. They want more art.
mhm.
You know, trading cards are great, prints are great, all that stuff's great, action figures, wonderful. But the truth is, when it gets down to it, people would rather have more story, more art if you can deliver it. So if you can give them an extra book, like an issue 0, or
Mm,
just add more pages, that excites people. That's what they're here to do, is read. That's really what they want. So I just kept giving the backers more and more what they want. Now, I'm going to be honest here. I put a lot of work on myself by doing that. So yeah, you may look and go, "Oh, you've got all these backers." Yeah, but I got a ton of work to do because
yeah.
it took work to get those backers, and I have to deliver a lot more work now because of that. So there is a trade-off.
Right.
It's
Oh, well,
yeah, there you go.
5 times. Karen wants to
So
know if you'll be releasing more action figures.
on the next campaign, these were very expensive. These were $275, and she sold out in, gosh, what was it? 48 hours. I sold all 10 of
Holy.
them in 48 hours. Yeah.
Wow.
The next campaign, I'm gonna do 10 more for the next campaign, but totally different attire because the next
Oh,
campaign is in the 1970s in New
all
York during the
right.
blackout in Manhattan. It's kind of a serial killer storyline. It's more horror and less war, but yeah, and she's in like a 70s disco jumpsuit.
Oh my
Yeah,
word, that's so
and
exciting.
yeah, and she's got sunglasses and everything. So that figure, I'll do the same thing. I'll roll that out. There'll be 10 of them most likely. Might do more this time because there were more people that wanted those.
Hmm.
So we'll do more, but not that one
Right.
because the reason why it was so expensive is, number one, it cost a lot of money to make her, and
Yeah.
number two, I was only going to do 10, and that's it. They even got a certificate. This is 1 of 10, 2 of 10, 3. So they know which one they have. There'll never be any more made of that version, the original version of her outfit. But there'll be other Diane figures,
Hmm.
so because they sell. Who knew?
Yeah.
Who knew Barbie dolls would sell?
People love collecting action
Yeah,
figures.
yeah.
They love to. They love to. Every time we get a new backer, it's a blessing, but it takes a lot of hard work. Oh.
And I'm there now. I mean, the momentum, it slows down, but it never totally dies, and that's what's really been my saving grace with this thing. I mean, I'm approaching 68,000 dollars,
Hmm.
and if I keep going the way I'm going, I mean, I'm definitely going to hit 70 in the next few months. So, I mean, I'll just keep it open as long as because there's so many people out there who haven't heard of it. I mean, like, you think everyone's heard of your book, and you'll go on a show and they'll be like, I never even heard of that. I don't even know what that is. I'm like, I've been talking about this for 2 years. You know, so, but it just shows you how long and hard it is to promote, especially when you don't have a lot of money behind you or a big publisher, and you just gotta, word of mouth. So time to buy a yacht. Not even close. That's Eric July's domain right there.
Except he bought a van,
Yeah.
so you can drive his stuff around and make deliveries and stuff.
Yeah.
He was being very practical.
For all you creators out there, the way you have to look at this is you're building something. Don't look at just one campaign and go, I've got to make money off this campaign and that's it. No, you got to think long term, more long term than that. I just keep spending money and money keeps coming in. It's no more complicated than that. I keep making more stuff. Like I said, I'm going to do a whole new print run for Diamond, and the money just keeps coming in. And it keeps going out, it keeps coming in. And eventually a lot more starts coming in than is going out. And then you're making money. But you just got to keep building on it. And now, whether or not people love what you're offering, that's another story. You don't know that till you offer it. This has struck a chord with people for whatever reason. People like this IP. So
to me, it's very unique. I think I found it to be very unique. I think that's why it stood out to me, because there's not a lot like we have a lot of superhero stuff right now, like a lot of superheroes. Obviously there's always gonna be superheroes, but these are just such unique characters, and it's such a unique idea, and it's an idea like we all kind of have in the back of our minds. Oh yeah, skinwalkers. Oh, but it's like I don't think very many people have done anything with that recently.
Yeah, I mean, for a while, people were all calling it a werewolf book, because there were all these werewolf books coming out. They're like, oh, another werewolf book. And I'm like, it's really not a werewolf book. I mean, there's one werewolf in there.
Yeah.
But it's more of a shapeshifter book or a skinwalker book.
Yeah.
But it's even more than that. It's really more about her, Diane, and her life and the people she encounters and the people she tries to help. There was a show called Quantum Leap that came out in the 90s. And the guy would travel through different bodies, and he couldn't go to the next leap to the next body until he helped. It'd be different time periods, and he couldn't help the next person or get to the next body until he helped or solved whatever the problem was for that episode. So he might be in the 1950s or the 1940s or 1980s or whatever, and that's kind of the way I see her. She goes through time, and when it's necessary, she doesn't do it all the time, but when it's necessary, when there's a crisis or something that needs to be fixed or a battle that needs to be fought of some kind, she assembles a war party. She finds out, and that's what's cool is I can do different totems in every series. Yes. I can explore all sorts of different kinds of animals.
Different time periods, different.
It's going to be fun. I wish I could draw faster, but it's like so long, it's just...
Do you allot yourself a certain amount of hours a day to draw and give yourself a break, or you just kind of go if you're in the certain mode? You just kind of go.
You try to do that, but it never really works out that way. Because what you try to do is say, I need to get 2 pages done this week, or I need to get 3 pages done this week, no matter what. The problem is some pages can take 6 or 7 hours. Some pages can take 12 or 15 hours. Wow. It just depends on what's going on in the page.
Yeah.
Like for example. This double page spread here with Thomas the Gator throwing the guy, and I mean that took a long time because I had to draw all that water, and it there's all the trees in the background. Drawing horses is fairly difficult, and just things like even panels that don't seem like they'd take that long, like that panel right there with all those troops. That takes a long time to draw that many guys.
There's a lot happening there.
Yeah. So it's surprising how long stuff like this can take. Even things like just drawing the artillery, and just drawing the cannons and getting them positioned right so they're in perspective. Drawing something like that fort way down there with him flying overhead and getting the fort. People who don't draw, like people who aren't artists, they don't realize how long it takes to make a comic book. It is a massive undertaking, and that's why most people couldn't do a monthly book. It was very rare you could get somebody to pull off 22 pages a month. They literally had to work almost around the clock and have no other job. I'm a full-time college professor, And I'm also doing work for someone else's book, which I can't say who it is right now, but they're paying me a page rate. So I'm doing that and War Party at the same time. You know, and I'm not complaining. I mean, it's awesome. But what I'm saying is, to get this done in a month, I'd have to do nothing else but this, and that's just not realistic. You know, I have to pay my bills and make a living.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. Ginger Ninja's loving it. Hi, Tim.
Hey, it's the best value you'll get in crowdfunding, as far as I'm concerned, for comics. You get 6 issues for $25.
Seriously.
Come on, guys. 6 issues. It's 160 pages for $25.
I was on Ginger Ninja. I was on Ginger Ninja's birthday stream this morning, and Reverend Sully was on there too, and I was telling him about your comic book, and he went, and I was like, you need to go. I sent him the link, and he went, he bought your whole package. Yeah, he was super excited. He was like, $25, yes.
I just fulfilled a couple new backers this week, so that he must have been one of them.
Yeah.
Well, tell him thank you.
He was very excited about it. So yes, everybody, you need to go. Phil has been dropping links like crazy. Keep dropping links, Phil. Thank you so much, Phil. You're the best. Indiegogo is where you can find all of Professor Murf's stuff. It's amazing. Please go look at it and go buy it because I love it. It's fun. And I really want to get her diary. That's like my next one.
That's going to be hardback and with gold foil stamping. Yeah, it's a $30. I'm giving it to the backers for $30. When I roll it out officially, it'll probably be more like $35, or it's gonna be a little bit more. But yeah, it's $30, and all the pinups inside are from different eras, and I have different colorists coloring them. So there's one where she's like I don't know if you know what a Gibson girl is from the turn of the century. They had those big bouffant hairdos.
Oh yes,
the big puffy. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, she's in that era. She's still got her tattoos. You know, her tribal tattoo. So
how did she hide them back then?
Well, she can't. But she mentions in the diary how she's like a topic of discussion because she's exotic, you know. So she'll walk in and they'll see these tattoos, and everyone's like, "Oh, she's but nobody knows how old she really is. You know, they just think she's just a Native American, you know. And of course, living that long, she gets fairly wealthy because if you lived that long, you'd make a lot. You'd get a lot smarter. You could probably learn how to play every instrument. You'd get so many skills and techniques and things. You learn so much stuff that I think it would be inevitable that you'd become a very wealthy person, just living that long. So that you'll see her resources increase over time, so that later on she has the resources she needs to.
That makes sense.
Get stuff done, so to speak. What was the historic Claiborne? Oh, let me grab it real quick. Hold on a second.
Claiborne. He's gonna grab it for us, guys. No. Please go to Justin Murphy's Indiegogo site because he has a whole bunch of Claiborne. Wow. Let me
War
make
book.
you bigger here. Here we go. Solo. Look at this.
Civil War.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So if you're into history, minus the fancy. This is a true story. This is a real Confederate general. He was Irish, and he had this controversial plan that he wanted to. The South didn't have enough soldiers. He wanted to free a portion of the slaves and make them soldiers, and free them. Be like, look, you fight for us, fight for your home, fight for your land, like we are. We'll make you free, and your families. But that was his take. Of course, a lot of people didn't like that idea, and then some other people did. But it kind of sent his life down like a spiraling sort of direction. But he was like the Stonewall Jackson of the Western theater. He was like the best Southern commander out west. He'd never lost a battle. He's a super tactician. But it's really about this plan that he had, because I found that fascinating when I learned about it. I was like, that's interesting. That needs to be talked about.
That looks so cool.
Yeah.
Graphic novel. Are you gonna make is War Party can be put into a graphic novel at any point?
Yeah, I'll eventually compile it like in an omnibus, but I think it would be cool. Well, number one, I'll do the original together, and then I'll I'm still going to do floppies for every series because I love floppies. They're like potato chips. You
Yeah.
read one and you're like, just one more. Read the next, just one more. To me, sometimes that's easier to get people to read it than this because they're like,
Right.
oh God, that's such a commitment.
Yes.
But this, you'll pick it up and you'll go, I'm just going to read one issue.
Uh-huh.
And then
They get
I've
into
talked
it
to
and they have
people,
to
they
go
read all
next.
3 in one sitting. Yeah, I'll do that eventually, and then maybe down the line after I've done 4 or 5 campaigns, I'll do one big omnibus that has everything in it. It has everything I've ever done, like a full collection, how they do, and you charge like $150 for that thing, and you get everything.
Yes.
So you can keep rolling with this stuff. That's what's great, is once the work is done, that's when you start making money because it's in the reprints. Because you got all this overhead. I got to pay my colorist. I have to do the work. But the printing's not really that expensive. No, it's not that bad. The printing's, it's really the labor and the time. That's the hard part. So once you get that out of the way, then that's when you really start, seeing the profits. Because I tripled my shipping costs already. You got to realize I shipped 1 through 3 to everybody. Right. Then I just shipped 4 and 0 to everybody. Then I'm going to ship 5 in the diary and possibly 6 together to everybody. I've tripled my shipping costs, but I looked at it like this. I could take $3,000, $2,000 and throw it toward, something else in the campaign. Or I could just take that $3,000 and say, I'm just going to use that as fulfillment money and ship it out so that people can keep getting their books and reading it and they don't have to wait till the whole thing's finished.
Yeah.
Which would have been a mistake because people would have been mad by now. They'd been like, this has been 2 years. We haven't gotten anything. I'm done, and you can't do that to backers. So cool. Thanks.
Yeah, look at this. Everybody's loving it. Historic-based comics are great. We need more of it. Yes. Heron's definitely going to get one.
And though Claiborne did well, for some reason when you put sexy women and werewolves, it sells a lot more. I don't know why, but it sells.
She's very pretty. That's going to grab everybody. The girls are like, oh, she's pretty. And the guys are like, oh, she's pretty. Yeah.
So my question is, when are you going to read and review 4? Because I'm very anxious. I love your reviews. Like your reviews popped up in my feed, and I didn't know who you were. Yeah, and I was like, what is this? Because I've seen all the reviews, so I watched your first one, and then I was like, oh, she's got another one. So I watched another one, and then I saw 3 was on there too, and I watched all 3 of them, and I love just how detail oriented you were. To me, a lot of times when people review a book, it's very general, it's just kind of generic, and it's like, yeah, and I like this, and the art is cool, and then they move on. You're like, really, you get into the details, and I love that. Like, to me, that is very rewarding to hear as a creator, because it actually makes you want to get back to the drawing board. That's the stuff that fuels us, is when we get that feedback, and people are like, I'm into this is cool, I like the characters, I can't wait for the next one. And then when those days happen where you're like, I'm not in the mood to draw today, Megan's voice goes, I can't wait for the next book. Like, they're waiting for it, and that makes you want to get over there and work, even when you may not feel like it or have the time. So, that's what it's about. It's about the readers. That's why we do this. So.
Well, I've got 4, 0, and my handbook. So I'm hoping this Wednesday, because Wednesday was when I wanted to focus more on indie comics.
Right. Yeah,
so
stay
I
consistent,
could
definitely.
Yes, could focus on it, and then Sunday was for, old Marvel DC. So now that I've got them all, I can record, and then I can release on Wednesday.
Cool. Looking forward to it.
No, I'm so excited. I was flipping through the handbook, and then I was like, oh, now I have to get stickers. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I'm very excited about
they'll
that.
come with the books. That's the good news. It's not gonna be an extra charge or anything. So anybody that backs the next books will get the stickers. Hint, hint, guys. The people that haven't bought the handbook, they'll get the sticker and be like, what the heck is this for? Oh, it's for the handbook. Wait, I don't have the handbook. Well, I need to order it now. There you go.
Exactly. Exactly. And it was interesting because I'd never heard of issue 0. That I didn't know that was a thing. I honestly didn't until I saw your ad for it, and I was like, what?
You know why? It's because it's a secret perk. And that's another thing I've done, which my backers love. When you become a backer, you get links to secret perks that are not listed on the campaign page. So until you're a backer, you can't get the War Diary. You can't get 0. You can't, a lot of these variant covers, that they're add-ons and secret perks. So it's kind of a way to show the backers that they're important.
Yeah.
And because they're sort of in the club, they're able to get stuff that no one else can buy unless they back the series. And the reason I did that is because you want them to read this first. You don't want them getting supplemental stuff without this. It doesn't make any sense. So you want to make sure they're getting this first, and then you can throw all the supplemental stuff on there as well. And there's some people that'll back you, and they're just trying to help you out, and they're just backing the series, and they're not really super fans, and they're not necessarily interested in buying all that extra stuff. You're going to get that. But you're also going to get, I mean, I've had some backers, I'm not going to say who they are, but I've had a few backers spend a couple $1,000s on this campaign.
Wow.
I mean, they bought one of her, but my point is, I like added up, I tallied the numbers. I was like, oh my god, this person spent over $2,000 on this thing. But that's a super fan, and that's someone you want to make super happy. So you do whatever you can do, throw a few little extras in there, maybe an extra sketch or something. But you want to keep obviously everybody happy, but people that spend that kind of money on you, you're like, whatever you want, you got it. You don't want to lose those people.
Jacob Ironside said, one thing I'm having trouble with is naming my comic book. Any suggestions on how to find a name?
Yeah, that's very important. There's a lot of campaigns, well, not a lot, but there's some campaigns out there that aren't doing very well, and I'm not going to say what they are, but I think a lot of the reasons the title. If you have a bad title, like part of me thinks Claiborne was a bad title, and the reason why is because it's a man's name. It's hard to pronounce. It doesn't really tell you anything. War Party is a great title. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily tell you what it's about, but man, it sounds
exciting.
Yeah, we're gonna fight. Like it's there.
Adventure.
Yeah. It needs to be brief, easy to say, easy to pronounce, and it doesn't have to tell you what it's about, but it needs to at least give you what the feel of the book is. So whatever the tone of the book is, or the gist of it, if you can capture that in 1 or 2 words, that's going to be, chances are, a good title. But don't be rash about it and go, oh, that'll work. Really think about what would make a good title. Write a bunch of them down. Ask people. Test it out. Like do like a dummy thing on like a cover and like put it on there and see what it looks like. Because even things like the way it looks. Like you want it to stand out if it's on a stand, you want this to stand out from far away. And someone go, what is that? War Party, what is that? Let me go check that out. So that would be my advice to you. But keep it simple and keep it clear.
Good advice. I don't know. Oops, that's not the one I meant to press, but that is true. Projectile reptile.
Yeah, that's catchy. Yeah. And I mean, that's obviously a book that doesn't take itself too seriously. Like that tells me a lot. There's some comedy there. There's some satire there. I mean, it's obvious. So, it just depends on what it is you're trying to convey. But
did you have the name before you had the story, or did they come together?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't even remember when I came up with the name. It was always there. Like this wasn't one where I was sitting around going, what's the name? What is the name? It never occurred to me. I was just like, War Party, that's the name. Because that's what they are. I mean, a war party is a tribal group of warriors that during war that obviously band together and they go to fight, or they're usually very small. It's not like an army or anything. And it just made sense to me. I was like, this Native American lore, you've got this. But the catch is, it's a war party of shapeshifters. They're not just warriors. Now, how will that work in other stories where they're not at war? Well, you could be at war with anything, right? I mean, if you're fighting an organization, technically you could be at war. You could be at war with organized crime, or what. So it's not like it has to necessarily be in the middle of a war for the title to still make sense in other time periods. And there are other wars. They'll be in the Civil War. I got them in the Wild West. Got them in the 1920s, got them in the 1970s, and there's connections. It's I can't get into it without ruining the story. But
are you going up gradually through time, or are you jumping around?
Jumping around.
Okay.
Like I'm going from this all the way to the most recent, which is the 70s, the 1970s, right, okay. And then bouncing in between. So you're gonna you'll learn new things as it flashes back and forth about people and what's going on with her and everything, and where this came from, this person came from. But zero is very crucial to all of it, because when I introduced that husband and wife team, they, if any of you are familiar with the Baphomet, what that is, the goat demon.
I like
It's
that's about it. Just I know what
half
it looks
male,
like.
half female. It's half male, half female, and it's got wings. And it looks
Yeah.
like a goat.
You
It's
have it
the
on the front, right?
it's the
Is that
symbol
what that
of,
is?
well, that's just the goat
Or is that the
pelt.
okay?
Yeah, that's Sheol. It's kind of like the land of the dead or hell. And that's Zaltana and Hakan. They're a husband and wife, and they're the ones. Their backstory is in there, and they both have the same totem, which is a goat. So when they, you know,
Yeah.
when they put the totem on, they merge into one creature, and one's male, one's female, and therein lies the Baphomet. See? So the Baphomet throughout history that you see in occultism and, with child, because they want the blood of children, it's like a child sacrifice kind of thing. They want innocence, and that's where they get their fuel from. Their energy is the destruction of the innocent, which all these kind of go to that. I mean, this one's about a little girl being taken to be sold to the French marquis. He's a buyer of children. Okay, so, but
There's
yeah,
all these connections.
yeah.
Were they all
And-
there in your mind, or are they coming
No.
together as you're going?
No, it just started off. I was like, I want the guy's daughter to be abducted. He has to go get his werewolf on to go save her. It was nothing more complicated than that. But then as Diane started to develop, and then I started to get into the whole Fountain of Youth thing with Florida, and then these two, this husband and wife, and then the Baphomet came in, I was like, okay, this is all, it just starts to evolve, and you're like, okay, this works, I like this, I like where this is going, and it just keeps going from there, and then you get excited about it, and then you start having other stories go through in your mind. You're like, well, I got to finish this first. Like, I got to get 5 and 6 done before I can, but you got to at least have like the seeds of what's coming.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you run into the George Lucas problem where like he did his first trilogy and then he went back and did the prequels and everything. He had to retcon a whole bunch. He changed a whole bunch of stuff, and stuff's inconsistent. It's because he was kind of making it up as he went along. I mean, he was, and then Disney did it even times 10 later.
Yes, they did.
So, so you have to make sure that you at least have an idea of where you're going with all this stuff, so that down the line when you do the next story, it still is consistent with what you did here. Which is why I did the handbook. When you read the handbook, you'll see I break down step by step how they transform, like everything they have to do. That was as much for me as it was for the readers. I was like, I got to write this stuff down, or I'm gonna forget something, and then I'm gonna like
I was
mess
flipping
up.
through it, and like you have like how their body changes. I think you had like a graph showing how tall they all were.
Yeah,
You have maps in here.
yeah,
Guys, there's maps.
yeah.
Maps, guys. I love when there's maps in something. It makes it more realistic.
That was for me. I had to
Yeah.
plan it all out. Yeah, there it is. That's the procedure. This is all the steps. It's not easy. You don't just, the moon just doesn't go full and you go full werewolf. She has to unlock your totem. You got to put on a pelt made of the animal. You have to consume part of her essence, i.e. some of her blood or her fluids, because she's the power source. And then the pelt comes alive, kind of like the symbiote in Spider-Man, and it attacks your body. It's very painful. It eats you up, merges with your flesh, and then you grow about 10 or 11, 12 feet tall. Turn into this big beast. So
It's so cool. I love how you did that, because it's like you're building like a whole, like it's the lore of War Party.
it's what you can learn from, like Tolkien, for example. The reason why his stuff is so rich is because he put all that extra stuff in there. Like, he didn't just tell a story, a narrative, and be done with it. He built things around it that you're like, oh, I wonder what it was like when the Numenorians were around, or whatever. Like all these different cultures and stuff. And I'm not trying to go that far with it, but at the same time, I'm trying to give it a little bit of, when it's fantasy, you want people to like buy it. a little bit because it's not scientific, obviously. I mean, none of this could really happen. So I try to go, well, how could you make it seem like it could happen? Like if it, make it logical. Like, well, yeah, that makes sense. You got to get a thing that has the DNA of the creature, and then her magic. You got to consume, some of her blood or something. You have to. She can't just go, you're a werewolf, boom, and just. So I tried to do it in a way that there were rules. You know what I mean? And there's you're gonna learn some more of the rules in issue 4 that's gonna surprise you. You're gonna be like, oh, okay.
I was kind of going through. Okay.
There's a rule I didn't know about.
Yeah, like the rule where you have to not you have to be celibate.
Well, her.
She has to, because so these two don't though.
Well, because they're defiling. They're becoming, in other words, I'm not going to get too much into it, but there's something.
I guess I have to.
If you go back to why is the Mother Mary considered semi-divine?
Right.
Because she was a virgin, right? Like, why did it's about purity and innocence and the destruction of that. Right. Evil likes to destroy innocence. That's what it likes to do. If you can preserve the innocence, it's like a shield. It's a barrier to the evil magic. So by her staying pure,
right,
it protects her. But she finds herself in a situation where she has to make a choice. Do I give up some of that protection to help this person achieve what they need to achieve, or do I? So I'm not going to spoil it, but it's
Dojo Kun is like spoilers.
Okay, but no, I mean, but but the reasons are valid. If you were to ever do that, risk that, the reasons are valid, and that's where Zero comes in, because it talks about that in there, because she's in love with the Tohopka, the guy that gives her the power, and he's like, I'm not touching you.
Right.
And she's like, why? And then the husband and wife are like, take her. You must, that's your mission, is to take her innocence away from her, because we can't do what we need to do and take from her what we need until you do that. So there's.
I'm so intrigued now. I wasn't able to read it like yesterday when I got them because there was stuff going on, but now I'm just more excited. Oh my goodness.
But that's why children play into the storylines a lot. A lot of these series have children in danger, or because they're the ultimate sort of symbol of innocence.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And, these elitists, they've been trafficking children since the dawn of time. I mean, they just have. It's just a truth. I mean, you go all the way back to the ancient Greeks, and children have been. It's an unfortunate truth of world history, is the trafficking of children, the abuse of children, things like that. So I delve into that a little bit without it being too disturbing or uncomfortable, because obviously this is a fantasy adventure story. You want it to be entertaining and fun. You don't want it to be like, this is, But there's hints of that there, so that, because to me that's the greatest evil. I mean, if you want to make your villains really, really bad. Have them harm children or animals. Those are the two things.
Those are the things that bother people the most.
Yes.
Yeah. You hurt another adult. Oh, well, okay, that sucks.
Well, I mean, that's still bad, but it doesn't have the same impact as a child or an animal being harmed. And so, if I want my villains to be really nasty and really evil, they're coming after the kids. They're coming after the innocent. And so she is that barrier. She's a barrier throughout time to help fight that, so, and that's what makes her such an endearing character, in my opinion. She's a nurturer. That's her number one. She's a protector. That is her number one trait. She doesn't have to run around with a machine gun and act like she's a man and be all, and yelling and screaming at everybody and berating everybody around her. No, she's gentle. She's tender. She's sweet. She's wise. She's patient. She has a lot of self-control, but there is a nurturing quality to her that I feel is what makes why she's becoming so popular. I mean, when people are reading, we don't see female heroes like that as much anymore. I don't think in a lot of movies.
It's true. No, you don't. I love that. She's actually a really great new female character to have out, I think, compared to a lot of what we have. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just gonna keep building on her and hope that more and more people, I mean, who knows where this thing's gonna go. We're in a new world now where we may have to start making our own movies and making, like
Yeah.
everybody's like, well, I want a Netflix deal. Well, I mean, you may not need a Netflix deal.
No.
Just if you just keep building what you're building, go out and finance your movie or TV series yourself, and then Netflix can distribute it. But it's yours. You made it.
Yeah.
You got the money for it. So, the sky's the limit if you have a great story, and that's what I'm trying to do is build a great story. It just takes time for it to be. You can't have a great story with 2, 3, even 6 issues, but over time, it can build on itself, and then before you know it, one day you wake up and you've got 1,000 pages worth of stuff, and you have an epic. I mean, you have something that people are actually like, I'm invested in this. This is, and you take that to a backer, an investor, or crowdfund it yourself, So who knows where it'll go, but right now I'm focused on the comic.
Have you ever thought about what if your comic got made into a TV show or a movie?
Yeah.
Has that thought ever crossed your mind?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it'd make a better TV series than a movie. The reason why is because each series could be a different time period. So the first season could be French and Indian War. Second season could be my 1970s, the Blackout series. And then just so the through line would be the actress that plays Diane in every season, but there'd be a whole new group of people in a whole different time.
And it would be animated in your mind, or is it like live action?
I mean, it'd work as both. I'd like to see live action because live action gets more viewers than animation. It always does. And part of the reason I wrote this is because I used to love the Rick Baker, Rob Bottin special effects in The Howling and American Werewolf. I used to love the old on camera, not the CGI garbage.
Yeah.
Stuff happening on screen, transformation. And I swore, I said, if this is ever made into a TV show or a movie, that one of my conditions is cast approval, script approval, if I don't write it. And I want as many practical special effects on camera as possible. I don't want all this CGI garbage.
Yes.
If you're going to have a guy looking like a lizard thing, I want a guy in a costume with makeup.
You can make amazing costumes.
Oh, yeah.
Holy.
It looks, prime example, if you go back and watch Fellowship of the Ring.
Yep.
The Uruk-hai are actors with makeup.
Yes.
And they're awesome. And then you get to the Hobbit, and the White Orc is CGI, and it doesn't have the same tactile reality. It just, you can tell he's CGI.
Yeah.
It's good, and like Gollum's great. Don't get me wrong. I think Gollum, they did the right call with Gollum.
Yes, they did.
But when they start making everything CGI, it just, something gets lost in translation. It doesn't work as well as practical on-screen effects. So that would be tough to do with a TV budget, and finding the people who can still do that, because there aren't a lot of makeup effects artists that know how to do that anymore. But then animation could be another option. But that's why I'm doing the motion comic, which that will be on Amazon Prime. The motion comic. It's motion comics. For those of you who don't know, we take the panels and we break them apart, and then they'll roll on screen. There might be a little bit of limited animation, but I record the whole thing with actors doing the voices. There's music, there's sound effects. So it's kind of like watching a movie, but you're looking at still artwork, story, art, but it's not animated. It's not like watching a cartoon. So it's the closest thing you can get to feeling like you're watching a movie of it without watching a movie of it. But that'll be when the 6 is done. Then I'll finish that off of the next 3 or 4 months after that. And that's also part of the campaign. That it's like $10. And my books are already carried through Amazon, and they do carry motion comics on Prime. They have Walking Dead and Watchmen. Yeah.
How did I not know that?
They're on there just like movies. I mean, you can rent them just like a movie. So,
that's so cool. Now I need to go look.
So that'll be a good introduction. That might be a way of slipping in there, because there might be somebody who will never read this, who's in Hollywood or has money. They see the motion comic, they're like, well, dang, we need to make this a show or a movie. Here it is. And you got the music, you got the sound effects, you got the acting, and it's pacing. I mean, it's all working for me. So it's another good way to sort of get in there and, wave the flag. Hey, look at me. let's make this happen.
It'd be so cool. Whoa, we got a bunch of. Ginger Ninja. You're not lazy. You're inspired. Just go back to what
Jester brings up a good point about
Where?
She-Hulk.
Oh, Jester, Dr. Jester. Is he telling that this super powerful and strong, independent, frontal womb carrying birthing person of adult She-Hulk CGI is bad? Yes.
And here's my point. Here's my point, guys. Here's why I want practical effects if this is ever a show or a movie. This is Disney we're talking about here. That She-Hulk, the effects in that show are abhorrent. They look ridiculously bad, especially for 2022. So my point is, just because something's CGI doesn't mean it's going to look good. Chances are it's going to look worse because I've been noticing it's getting worse. CGI is degrading because they're trying to save money.
It's like they're just getting lazy.
They are. They're
and
saving
it's
money.
so obvious.
They are. And they're not. If you go back and watch Jurassic Park, and everybody's like, God, the dinosaurs look so great in that movie. 70% of the dinosaurs on camera were not CGI.
They're like animatronic.
Yeah, when it's a close-up of T-Rex, it's a head. It's the only times when they're walking and running, and they put a lot of time into those few shots to make them look as best. And they still hold up. I mean, they still look better than a lot of movies today. But the reason why that movie works is because they blended the two. They didn't just rely on, yeah, that was ridiculous. That's laughable, man. Like,
I honestly haven't seen it. I just keep seeing people's like reactions to it and clips of it, and I'm like, that is definitely more than enough.
Yeah, there's no reason to go away from practical effects. They still look great.
Yeah.
They just got to be done. It's like anything. You can do it well or you can do it badly. CGI can be done well or done badly, and so can practical.
It requires you to be much more creative. It requires you to actually have to put in effort and work and...
Yeah, and you have to storyboard those scenes. In other words, you would have to shot for shot know exactly what you need to get ahead of time. You can't, because obviously, you know, if it's somebody in a suit and there's different heads and things, you have to plan all that out. Like, when am I going to show a close-up? If I show a close-up of the face, are we going to make a bigger head that has a lot more articulation than the one the guy has on his head? See, all those things have to be predetermined. The biggest thing with doing it live action would be the soldiers, because there's a lot of extras. So you'd have to like get reenactors that do like Rev War that already have the uniforms and the guns and everything, and kind of like the way they did with Last of the Mohicans. And that's the hard part, is the sheer volume. That's where CGI can save you, because you could have 100 extras and then CGI way off in the distance, thousands in ranks of soldiers that are far away.
Right.
You know, and there's ways around it that way.
Yeah. Yep. That's true. John Wick is doing that. Doing practical effects? Is that what you mean, Hail the Lore? Practical effects?
Yeah, there's a lot of practical fighting. A lot of the gunfire, though, isn't squibs, which I don't like. I don't like the CGI blood, because I can tell. I mean, they do it all over the place in John Wick, but you go back and watch something like RoboCop, the original RoboCop from 1988, the blood, the squibs just look so good. Like, man, that's gross. CGI blood doesn't look like that. It just doesn't.
Extras work for free lunch and minimum wage. I did some extra work. It's true, but it's really fun.
Yeah. But unfortunately, those war movies where you need thousands of soldiers, you have to use reenactors.
Yeah.
Because they have their own gear. That's the thing. Yeah, they already have their uniforms. They already have the guns. And they already know how to march. They know all the stuff. It's really easy, and you still pay them, but could you imagine trying to train an extra, pay them, and buy all that stuff? No, it's crazy.
That would be such a mess, and it would just take so much time. And you want people that know their stuff.
The more you have me talk about it, the more it make me think maybe this should be animated. It's so much less work to draw it.
What about if we do an animated series and then you do a stage play?
A stage play? Oh, a musical? Yeah.
Like a musical.
A musical. No. A rock opera.
Rock opera of War Party. Man, that would just be a lot. That's
hey, anything, if they can do a musical, Rocky and the Karate Kid and Back to the Future,
it's true.
Anything's possible.
We're going to Broadway. You're going to Broadway.
So, I mean, I know we're supposed to be talking about the book. I'm sorry, I'm like diverting
No,
onto
it's
movies.
very interesting.
Okay.
I love all of this. Oh, the good, the bad, and the ugly use the Spanish military
Yep.
for the bridge scene. Cool.
Apocalypse Now used the Filipino army for the helicopter stuff. Those were
Ooh.
helicopters in the Philippines. Yeah, and it was funny because they'd be shooting a scene, and also the helicopters would get called away. There was a guerrilla revolution out in the jungle, and they had to go attack the guerrillas and then come back and continue the scene. So Francis Ford Coppola's
Oh
like,
my
"Where are the
goodness.
helicopters going?" They're like, "We have an insurrection in the jungle. They'll be back."
So I went to war, and they're like, "All right, let's go back
Yes.
to shoot the movie."
Yes.
Okay.
Isn't that crazy?
My goodness, that is
Nuts.
crazy. And they totally did that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, they literally flew over there to go kill some people, and then came back to continue shooting the movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Because that
I
was
love all these little like interesting factoids that you don't really hear about.
Yeah. I'm
love
full of it.
You remind me of Steven. We do a Friday show. It's called Blast from the Past Movie Reviews. And so we pick movies and we just kind of review them. We kind of analyze them. We go over them. And we're finding that we're just going back like 90s and back because we talk a lot about the practical effects and the acting is a lot different. I feel like the actor can put on a better performance because if you're in like CGI and you're in front of a green screen and you're talking to a tennis ball and you don't have anybody to interact off of and
It's not. I mean, I don't care how good of an actor you are. It's not the same. It just isn't. And it's unfortunate. And actors hate it, honestly. Actors hate CGI. They would much rather prefer real sets, real monsters, as much as on camera as possible, because it helps them. It's why a lot of them run to the stage, because making movies is a lot different. I mean, I do stage acting. I've been doing it since as a kid. And just the interaction of the audience, that immediate response, that instant gratification, you don't get that when you're shooting a movie because there's no audience. You're doing shot by shot, and on stage everything's there. The costumes, the set, everything that you need is there.
And you get to take the whole journey from beginning to end instead of just interrupted.
It's in order. Yeah, exactly.
You
It's
go on
really
the whole...
really cathartic. I was Jekyll and Hyde a few years ago. The musical. Yeah, I played Jekyll and Hyde. And that was the most amazing acting experience I've ever, especially the scene when he's going in and out of, back and forth, and he's freaking out at the end. That was, that's taxing. Let me tell you what. Every night I'd get home and just be like fried, and then go straight to bed, and the next day you got to do it again. 8 shows a week. We did.
Wow.
So, yeah, for 6 weeks. Dang. Yeah, it was pretty nasty. Yeah.
Hi, Shield Wall Dragons. You missed so much. It's okay. I'm still happy you're here. I don't know if they're... Oh. For this take, look into the tennis ball's eyes with rage.
Yeah, exactly. Here it is, the broom handle. I've been fighting broom handles my whole career.
Aww.
Yeah,
Musicals.
yeah. See, I love musicals because I'm a singer. So I've been in Jesus Christ Superstar like 7 times throughout my life, and it was Jesus every time.
Yeah.
But yeah, love them. I just did Rock of Ages last about 4 months ago. Yeah, so that was fun. Yeah.
Wow.
It's all
You're so
over my
talented.
Twitter.
You do everything.
Well, thanks. Well, and one thing I will say this for writers: if you can get in an acting class, if you're not an actor, do some acting, because it does help you with dialogue. What helps you, because when you're an actor and you're writing dialogue, you will say the dialogue out loud, and if it doesn't sound right or natural, you'll fix it. And a lot of writers, the biggest problem they have is dialogue. You read it and you're like, people don't talk like this, or this doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a rhythm. It has to sound like it's got a flow, And writing for stage, it's all about dialogue. When you write plays, it's not a visual medium at all. It's a listening medium. It's audible, so it's the total opposite of movies, and comics are sort of in between. People go, comics a visual medium. No, it's both. It's visual and it's reading. It's
Yeah.
text. So it's not just visual. So writing good, solid dialogue is important for the characters.
I love that. Hi, Dreaming Tabitha.
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. For those of you who came in, this is Professor Murf. We are talking about his comic book that he's working on right now. We are talking about War Party. You guys need to go and get this. He's on Indiegogo, and 0 and 4 were just released along with the handbook. You guys, they are awesome. They are amazing. This is set in Civil War.
No, French and Indian War.
Sorry, French and Indian. Holy man, I'm sorry.
You threw you off
Megan,
with
get it
Claiborne.
together. He also look at all this wonderful.
Look at her eyes. Look how
look at
well
those
they did on her
eyes.
eyes. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
She looks amazing.
Yeah.
You guys, you can't get this one anymore. I'm sorry.
No, she's
This
gone.
But
I had to make one for myself though.
of course, we should always have. Wrong. Bye, Ginger Ninja.
Thanks. Been real. Best of
Yeah.
luck.
You got
Thank you,
this,
you
Ginger
too.
Ninja. You got this. Badass. It is badass. Y'all will love this. Wait, what? Helps with the visuals for blocking.
Yeah. Thinking about blocking is like when you position when a director tells the actors where to go on stage, like stage right,
yes.
stage left. So when you're doing a scene in a comic, a lot of times you may have like 5 people in a room. You have to remember where everybody is in relation to each other because when you move the camera around, they still have to be in those spots. It's
That
tricky.
makes sense.
So you got to think like you're on stage almost, and they're all sitting around.
Oh, that makes sense. I never thought of that.
Yeah, it definitely helps. Because when I teach animation at school, I tell my animators, I'm like, you guys are actors. You realize that, right? You're actors with a pencil. Your job is to create half of the performance. The actor doing the voice is only doing the voice.
Right.
You got to do the face, the body, everything that's going with the voice. So you're here to give a performance. You're not just here to draw. So I was like, if you've never acted before, go take an acting class, understand how acting works, body language, all that stuff. And you kind of put that in comics too. If you pose a character a certain way, you got to capture that moment. What's the moment that conveys the emotion the most? Without it looking stiff. That's the challenge, is to not make stuff look, like it's a mannequin standing there.
A lot of crossover between the fields.
Yeah, I mean, they're
I guess that's what's helped you with your story, because your comic book, like when you go on Indiegogo and you look at everything that's there, and it's all very, like, there's a lot of amazing stuff there, obviously. And people have put a lot of hard work into what they're doing. But yours does stand out because, like, your storytelling and your art. But then when I was looking into, I wasn't being creepy, but I was researching you. And you have done acting, and you have
right.
you're a musician, and like all of these things have helped, obviously, have helped you
Totally
create a whole story and bring all these different pieces together.
Yeah, well, and especially when I do the motion comic, because I'm directing all the voice actors. I'm doing one of the voices, one of the characters. I pick out the music and the sound effects, and I time how long a panel's on screen before I go to the next one, and so on. So there's a cinematic. That's much more cinematic, because the speech balloons are gone. You're hearing the dialogue. You're not reading it anymore. You're just looking at the images, and it really, honestly, is going to feel like a story reel, like a story reel they put together before they shoot a movie.
Yeah,
or animate it. Yeah. So
No, I
yeah,
like
it's all connected. It's definitely.
So when is maybe you told me and I forgot, but for people, everybody who came in, when is your? Wow, I'm losing my mind.
When is the next issue?
The comic.
The follow up.
The moving.
Oh, the motion comic.
Motion comic.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
No, it's okay. Well, I mean, obviously, it's not going to be till everything's done because I can't animate what's not drawn or
So
put
you're still working on
yeah,
5 and
I'm on 5
6.
right now and the diary, and then I got to do 6 after that, and then I can do the motion guide. So it's going to be a while.
Mm.
These books, on a good day, take me about 3 months to draw an issue. And that's on a good day. That's like staying on schedule. If you fall off schedule, they can take 6 months to draw very easily. You'd be shocked how fast 6 months will go by when you're working on a comic book. So, I'm going to try to amp things up a little bit, obviously, because I don't want people waiting forever. It's a learning curve, Most of us are late. What you have to realize about crowdfunding, what we always have to remind people, is you're helping us build something. It's not like just pre-ordering a product.
Yeah.
I mean, Ripa's done his book. That is pre-ordering. That's not crowdfunding. He's done it. He got the money. He's shipping it out. Done.
Yeah.
But crowdfunding, this wouldn't exist without the backers. But we're also having to build it as we go. So that takes a lot longer. Not to mention we have to promote it. We have to run our campaigns. We have to fulfill it. We have to ship it. God knows how long I spend printing labels. Just printing labels. I mean, it's nothing to do with drawing. So and now I'm going to be dealing with Diamond and shipping, to retailers. It's a lot. So that's why this takes so long. But the good news is you're building something that once it's made, it's permanent. I mean, you helped build this. That's the cool thing. There's a little bit of ownership there. That wherever these things go, whether it's my book or Ripa's book or Cyberfrog or, Jawbreakers or whatever's out there, wherever these things go and end up, you guys made this happen, and that's what's cool about it, is that feeling of ownership that you really don't get when you just buy a product that somebody else paid for.
Yeah.
It's and that's why it takes so long. So.
Thank you. It actually happens a lot. Professor Murf can do all aspects of the comic, which is different from someone like me who has to hire the artist, colorist, letterer, and editor.
Yeah, he makes a good point because there's pros and cons. The pros to what I'm doing is the only one holding me back is me. Like I have control over getting all this stuff done. The downside is the only one holding me back is me. So it's like he can hire someone and they can do the work while he does other stuff, but he could also hire someone and they could drag their feet and not get it done, or they could quit the project halfway through and then he's got to go find another artist. Not to mention, that's why I had to do that with Zero, honestly. If you notice in Zero, I didn't draw the first 22 pages. I drew the last 10 pages.
Really?
There's 2 stories in there. The last 10 pages are my story. The first 22 pages are Marcio Abreu. He's a artist who's worked for DC for years. But it's a totally different. Yeah, it's a totally different style.
I didn't actually really look.
Yeah, I had to hire him because it wasn't going to get done. I was like, I can't. It's 32 pages, and I still got to move on to 4 and 5. And I came to the realization. I said, well, fortunately, I've raised enough money on this campaign. I can hire an artist, and I'll just do the last 10 pages story in there. And so I hired him to do it. But, I mean, it took him 9 months to do it. Yeah, because he had other jobs.
Okay,
so it took forever. And he warned me. He said, it's going to take me a long time. He's like, I'll be lucky to get a page a week. I was like, that's fine. We'll start now. And I hired him back in December, last Christmas. So there's pros and cons, like I said. I'm glad that I can draw it because I don't have to rely on an artist. But at the same time, sometimes I envy the people that don't have to draw it because, they're just like, I write it, edit it, and, get somebody else to do the hard work because the drawing really is the hard part. It's not the writing.
Yes.
I mean, the writing is nothing against writers, and
so much
I love
detail.
writing, but the labor is the art. That's the labor. That's the work.
Also, it smells good.
And I wanted it to be black and white.
It was funny because everything I've gotten from you has been like full color, right? And then I opened this one and I was like, oh, it's black and white, but I still love it. It's a totally different
retro.
aspect and way of looking at it.
Yeah, I want to go more retro with it. I did use something called Zipatone where you put the little dots in there, like you'll see them in there. Those little gray. It looks like gray, but they're actually little black dots,
Okay.
like halftones. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That's
No,
that's
you
a little
guys,
trick you do
this
with.
art is crazy. I have to show y'all. Let's see. Ready?
Oh, well, that's mine. Yeah, yeah. So
This is
that's Sultana and Hakan. That's the husband and wife getting ready to basically sell their souls to the devil.
Dang.
For ultimate power. Yeah.
Getting creepy. Whoa.
Oh, okay, yeah. Don't get your channel taken down for that one.
Oh yeah, I might have to. But like, who did you say did this art?
That's Marcio Abreu. Yeah, he's
Marcio
worked for DC and stuff. I wanted him to get like kind of a John Buscema, Savage Sword of Conan kind of vibe.
Yes.
Yeah, that style. Yeah, I was like, can you give me your best 1980s, 1970s Conan look? I wanted it to kind of look a little retro.
Yeah, it
I mean,
totally does.
If I'd have drawn it, it would have been different. Like I would have made different choices, obviously. But you got to let an artist do the way they want to do it. And he did a great job. It's just funny because you look at stuff, you're like, oh, I would have done that panel completely different. Like it shows you how different artists. This is a totally different thing, and that's why it's so important. Whoever you hire, it's what you're looking for. Because, like I said, I saw him do some Conan online. I was like, yeah, that's the style I want. But like, I would have drawn things so differently just because our minds, two people's minds work the same, like where you decide to put the characters, where you put the camera, it's all completely different. So there's a part of me that's like, one day I might redraw it and just have both, just to see both versions. I was like, I'm not gonna have time for that.
You just need to get it out of your brain.
Don't get me wrong, I'm very happy with what they did. It looks great. What I'm saying is there's sometimes you're like, oh yeah, that's interesting. He did it that way. I wouldn't have thought to do it like that. Like I would have done it like this, and then you always wonder, well, what would it have looked like if I'd have drawn it? Like how different would it have been? So, yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
It's true. We can all sit around and just complain, or we can stop complaining and just create, just make our own stuff. Now it's harder with movies, obviously, because it's a lot more money. That's the problem. I mean, you're talking millions, and that's the trick: is how do you crowdfund at that level? You got to be Ripple level big to raise that kind of money.
right.
But comics are affordable. Comics are cheap, really. They're the cheapest way to tell stories aside from writing a novel. Like they're the second cheapest way of storytelling. Yeah, the smell, I love. Yeah, that ink smell. You get. Of course, the whole house smells like it because I got like 5,000 copies of issues. The whole house smells like a print shop.
Nice.
And my printer's in Florida, which is great because that's where I live. So, they're not that far away. They're like 4 hours south of me, 3 hours south of me.
Nice.
And they print for Scout Comics and a lot of publishers that Diamond deals with, which is great because when it comes time to ship to Diamond, they don't even ship them to me. They print them. They already have a relationship with Diamond. They ship them straight to Diamond's distribution centers for me as soon as they're printed.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's one thing I won't have to deal with. So. But yeah, this is a full 32 pages, this issue. That's why it took so long. I mean, a lot of times the issues are 22 pages, maybe 26 or 28. This was a full 32. There's Bastion, my were Jaguar. He's giving this guy some cosmetic surgery to the cheek. Ouch, that hurts. Yeah. So, it's fun. I'm just glad that it's doing so well. I was when I set off to do this, I thought if I could just hit $20,000, $30,000, I'll consider that a massive success. And here I am.
You're still
knocking
going
on the door of 70 grand. I'm just,
Yeah.
if you had told me that I was going to raise that much when I launched this campaign 2 years ago, I said, no way. There's no way I'm going to hit those kind of numbers. And now I'm like thinking, could this hit six figures? like, is it possible if I leave this up another couple years, could I actually hit six figures on the first campaign?
Yes, you could. A lot easier to make independent films than 20 years ago.
Yeah,
I don't know anything about filmmaking. So.
It is easier. I mean, the technology, but it's still expensive. Don't kid yourself. I mean, you're still talking millions. So it's just a very expensive sandbox to play in when it comes to making movies. You know, it's not impossible.
No,
but it's
Gina Carano went and did her movie with Well, she went to Daily Wire.
But Daily Wire paid for it, though.
Yeah.
That's their money. It's not
Yeah.
her money. And Gina Carano's got money. It wasn't her money. So, yeah.
That's true.
So yeah, it's just tough, you know, and that's why, unfortunately, when it comes to getting movies and TV made, you're still kind of under the thumb of the studios. So your next best option is to be very strict about your demands. Be like, if they really want it, you say, look, I get cast approval, I get script approval. You know, you're not going to change my characters without my approval. You're not going to cast somebody I don't want to play that role. Those are the two things you got to hang on to, is that control. And if they're not willing to allow that, I mean, they gave it to Robert Kirkman with Walking Dead.
Yep.
He had complete say. I mean, he was a co-producer on that show. He had casting say. He had script approval. Every script went across his desk before it got greenlit for an episode. So it's doable, but you got to be successful enough to justify it. You know what I mean? Like, they got to be like, we want this. We'll give you what you want, you know. So
Invest a large.
yeah, yeah. It's not cheap, but it is the cheapest way. I mean, the only thing limiting you is drawing it. I can draw armies, monsters, forts, panoramas, stuff that would cost a lot of money to shoot. I can just draw it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's so great about comics. It's why it's been such a great medium, like, for IP testing, you know, over the years, because it's so affordable.
Oh, yes. Man. I'm excited. Oh. True. It'll be interesting to see if Daily Wire gets into the superhero sci-fi genre.
It wouldn't surprise me if Daily Wire ends up greenlighting an ISOM movie or ISOM.
Yeah.
I mean,
can see that happening.
I think it's only a matter of time, honestly.
I can see that happening.
You can't ignore that kind of success. Somebody's going to want to make a movie or a show of that.
And you know that Rupa's going to want to have lots of control.
But I think they'd give it to him.
Yeah.
I think they would, yeah. It's gotten easier to do that these days, you know, than it used to be. And it's all about what deal you sign. I mean, you can just stand your ground. I mean, even Stallone did it with Rocky. He insisted on starring in it. They would not want him. They did not want him at all. And he said, fine, I'll forgo pay. Don't pay me, but I get to star in this movie. It was the smartest decision he ever made, because it launched his career, won Best Picture.
Cannot imagine those movies without him.
They were trying to cast like Robert Redford and that part. Can you imagine
What?
Robert Redford as Rocky?
No, that would never have been the same.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have become the like cult classic that they are.
No, it would have been a forgotten movie of the 70s. Yep. So
That just shows how important it is to have a
if you
good.
stand your ground, you can get a lot more than you think. Yeah.
Did you find a time in writing War Party that you had to like stand your ground, or has this been like very much? Because this has just been like all you basically.
Yeah, I mean, when it's just
Yeah.
you, there's nobody to stand your ground to, because there's nobody. This is the first project, I will say this. This is the first project I've ever done that has not had investors. I've written 2 musicals off Broadway in New York. Both had investors. My comic, even when I was 17, I had to bring one investor in to give me some money, and he got part of the company. Claiborne, I had a lot of investors for that. Yeah, this is the first time, you know, like I said, that I own it all. There's no company. I'm not sharing the IP with anybody. It's all mine 100%. So I haven't had to answer to anybody so far. And I think more things should be made that way. You know, like the too many cooks in the kitchen thing is very true. And it's why a lot of movies are garbage. You've got too many people with their hands in the pot, stirring it up and making it into a mess. And this is, even with its imperfections, it's pure. It's just me. You know, I mean, I have a colorist, if you want to say it. But I mean, other than that, there's no other input other than me. So you're getting one artist's vision. And what I like about that is it going to be perfect? No. Are there going to be things some people may not like? Yes. No. Or the art and writing? Possibly. But it doesn't matter. It's yours. It's just you. You know, and I think we need more stuff like that, because the stuff that tends to shine through and last tends to be the stuff that's that auteur thing, you know, where it's like the one vision was uninterrupted and they were able to make the movie their way, or tell the story their way. That's what I'm doing with this, and so far it's working. So maybe it's just because I'm so old, Rob. I've lived so long that I know how to do this finally.
Hello, awesome one. River runs through it with blood. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Dojo
Main
Kun's
writer.
he's building a whole universe of characters that he's created. You know, it's fun. You know, it's funny because as much as I love comics, other than Spider-Man and Hulk, I didn't really read superhero comics growing up. I read Conan. I love Savage Sword of Conan, the Nom, as I told you before, which is a war book. I read a fantasy book called The Realm, which is kind of like Dungeons and Dragons type story. I was always into the odd stuff, like the
Yeah.
stuff that wasn't necessarily like the big. I was never really that much of an X-Men reader. I read Batman, I read Spider-Man, and I read Hulk. That was about it for superheroes for me. So I've never really been a huge superhero guy, which is probably why this has happened, because she's not really a superhero. I mean, I guess you could say kind of, but
She's a sort of hero in her way, but not like our heroes that we see.
right. And she's not putting on a costume
Yeah.
necessarily and going out and fighting crime. Now, the 1970s might feel a little bit like that if superheroes were monsters, because, you know, you're going to have the seedy New York streets, and that's going to be a cool series, because a lot of people don't know, but Manhattan had a blackout in 1977 for 2 days. All the power went out in Manhattan, and there was mass looting. I mean, it was terrifying. Can you imagine Manhattan going dark for
never
2
been there, but-
days?
Yikes.
In New York City in the 70s was dangerous enough. You turn out the power, and it's like gasoline on the fire. And at the same time, the son of Sam, the serial killer, was still on the loose, shooting people.
Oh, wow.
He hadn't been caught yet. And apparently he's claimed that he was part of a cult called the Process Church. And they used to meet in this weird park in Yonkers called Untermeyer Park, and they would kill German shepherds there. Yeah, they were trying to conjure up some kind of demonic force, and he claims that he wasn't the only one shooting these people, that he had other people helping him, and there were people in the vans shooting snuff films of these people
Oh,
getting
my
shot.
word.
Yeah. And so
We're going to see some of this in your...
the Process Church, what is the evil they're trying to resurrect? Well, you can use your imagination. But what really made me connect the story, I was like, Berkowitz talked about being talked to by a talking dog who would tell him to go kill people. And I was like, what's a talking dog?
My skin.
It's a werewolf.
Werewolf, yes.
So I was like, I can play with this. This is interesting. So that's going to be the gist of it. So it's War Party Blackout is the name of the next series.
Oh my goodness.
So we'll be jumping, 200 years later, 200 years later.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Shield Wall.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. I gotta get her
Lord.
channel off with a boom.
Always
here.
talking about the most weirdest shit. You should know this by now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm into the weird stuff. I like occultic stuff and history and conspiracy theories and all. I'm into all that stuff, Illuminati stuff, and Bohemian Grove and all that weirdo, junk.
Yes.
But how much truth there is to all that stuff, who knows? I'm sure there's some truth to it, but the thing is, I'm doing fantasy.
Yeah.
So I can take stuff that some people believe is real, and maybe it is to some degree, and then put it into a fantasy setting and stir it all up, and boom, there it goes.
Well, and it's having those little pieces of truth that make a story seem so much more real.
Yeah. And so it's fun. I mean, like I said, I just wish I was the Flash. I wish I could draw a comic book in 5 hours. To move on to the next one. It's time. It's getting the time to get all this stuff done. And I see why people like John Malin are hiring other artists to get, he's working on books, but he's also got other people work, because there's only so much you can do yourself. And would I ever hire another artist to do one of these War Party series? Possibly. I would prefer to draw it myself, though, because like I said, as good as the artist is, there's always going to be things where I'm like, oh, I would have done that differently. I wouldn't have, I would have framed that differently or drawn that differently. And sometimes I think no one's going to give to it as much as you because it's yours. Like, no matter how much you're paying somebody, it's still a job for them. Whereas when it's you, it's your thing. You're just going to put that little extra in it that you're not necessarily going to get from a work for hire all the time. So I would prefer to draw as much of this as possible, Oh, yes. The beast of, was it? Jevon, I don't know remember the name of the town. I know it's from the beast of Jevondu or something. I can't remember the name of the town, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah, there was a wild wolf. They claim was a werewolf, and he was like ripping children out of houses, running around the French countryside, dragging children out of their houses, attacking people on their farms. I mean, just like murdering, ripping people to pieces. And it was some kind of huge wolf. I don't know what it was. It's not just an urban legend. There's actual documented. I guess you want to call them newspaper articles or whatever. They didn't really have newspapers at that point. Well, I guess they did. Yeah, Gévaudan or whatever. I don't know how to pronounce it. But no, it's documented. It wasn't just a legend. Something was killing these people. Not a werewolf, but it was a wolf. But there's also Black Shuck. Have you ever heard of Black Shuck? Black Shuck was a wolf that busted in on a church in England and started running through the aisles, attacking parishioners through the pews, and then it ran up to the priest and killed him on the altar. Then it ran back out and scratched the doors, and they said it was like steam or flame or something coming off of this dog. And when he scratched the doors, you can still see the burned scratch marks to this day on the church doors. They're there. You can look it up online. There's a picture. It's got the claw marks right there on the door. And he ran out, and that was documented. That Black Shuck. I mean, and then the church caught on fire because he knocked over a bunch of candles on the altar. The church caught on fire, and the church burned down. So they thought this thing was like a demon. Or something.
Yeah. Dang.
Yeah, it could have been rabid. Yeah, but usually rabid dogs just kind of lay around and sleep. They're not like Cuja. They don't really. That's an urban legend that rabid animals like charge at you. They really get really like lethargic. So I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, but this Black Shuck thing was crazy because they said when he stood up on his hind legs to scratch that door, they said he was like 6 feet tall. He's huge. That's
so
why they thought he was a werewolf.
Yeah, you could see that.
Yeah. So Spring Hill Jack. Yeah, that's another one. That's not a wolf though. That's a man. Some guy that he was jumping from rooftops to rooftops, and he'd grab women and carry them off.
Holy!
You need to investigate your cryptids and the paranormal. It's interesting stuff.
I have a very overactive imagination, though.
Yeah,
and after a certain time of night, I can't look at creepy things because then I don't sleep.
Well, it's already almost 11 o'clock, so.
For you? Oh, yeah, it is for you. I'm sorry. I probably should let you
go. That's not a problem. Hey, a 2-hour stream's great. I can come back. I can come back and we can talk again. Maybe when issue 5 is done.
Yes, and then I won't be in. Yeah, I'll probably still be a noob. What am I saying?
No, you'll be a pro by then.
Okay. Could be some species that large that don't exist anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, it's weird stuff, but it's documented stuff. There's eyewitnesses. There's all sorts of writings and diary entries. They're not just legends. Now, they may have grown into something else.
Oh, yeah.
But they're still based on real events.
People.
Both of those. Yeah, that's what the Ghost in the Darkness is based on. Movie Ghost in the Darkness, or about those lions that were killing people in Africa. Or you're saying railroad worker? Oh yeah, this thing is in Africa. Yeah, Ghost in the Darkness. Yep, another true story.
Killer Dollar. Think of Killer Dollar.
Cool stuff.
On over to culture. Yeah, now we're talking about culture. Well, it is late. I forgot that you're like an hour ahead of me. I'm
That's
so
fine.
sorry.
No problem. Like I said, I'll come back and we'll do this again when 5 is
Yes.
done. Whatever.
I would love
So.
that. That would be so much fun. I don't know
Yeah.
if you're still here, Phil. If you want to drop Professor Murf's links again for me, everybody, please go check him out on Indiegogo. Go back him. Go support him. Buy his stuff because it's amazing and it's so much fun. You will love it. It is an adventure and a half, and you need this, and then you can put stickers in it, and then
I've only got 4 copies of those left.
really
The handbook, yeah, they've almost all
handbook?
sold out. I'm gonna have to do a
That's
second
awesome.
printing. Yeah,
Woo!
they're gone. They
No,
are
I'm
gone.
super excited. I'm super excited to collect. I'm just gonna start having a war party collection, and I'll have to take my husband's books off the shelves and put my stuff
Well,
on it.
floppies don't take up that much room. Plus, if you get the there's a slipcase, guys, that
Oh
will
yeah.
hold these, and it's I won't have it done until obviously all the books are done because they have to be made specifically, however thick the books end up being. Like, I mean, if issue
makes
6 ends
sense.
up being 48 pages, I don't know. But
Yeah.
my point is, until they're all done, I can't have them made. But once they're all done, they fit snugly in it. You know, they have to slide into it, and it's got like a painted picture on the front. But
I
there's an
totally
ad
need
for it on
that.
there.
Yeah, I need
And
that.
then you could just put on your shelf like a book, you know.
You have collector's cards, right? You have cards.
Just one of
one.
Diani. Yeah.
Diani,
I
okay.
haven't really gotten heavy into the cards thing, even though they're becoming more popular. I don't do bookmarks. I just do one card. I did one poster, which posters. The problem with posters, they're so expensive to ship. They're just not really worth it. Like the big ones, because you got to ship them in the big tubes, and you know, you
Right.
may sell 20 or 30 of them, but you're like, you know, they're cool to have, but I don't know if I'd do them again. Honestly, I'd probably do
No.
a smaller one. Yeah.
Are they as popular or just too much?
Just not a lot of people buy them because where are you gonna put them? You know, like
It's
when
more
they're
of a collector item, like
yeah, it's like they're just so big that unless someone has a space for them on their wall, they don't. What are they gonna do with it? Just leave it
Yeah.
rolled up, you know? So, I don't know if I'll do posters again. Oh, we'll see. But the doll
Like a
thing,
minimum
or-
amount.
I gotta quit calling it a doll. The action figure thing,
Action
that was a home run.
yes.
Like, I mean, I was like, when those things sold out, because I did 10, or no, I did 5, and they sold out the first day. And then I went back to the backers and said, would you guys mind if I did 5 more? So it'll still only be 10, you know. And they're like, that's fine, no problem, because I didn't want them to feel like I was devaluing the 5 they
Yeah.
bought.
Yeah.
And they gave me the go ahead, and then I did 5 more, and they sold out the next day as well. I was like, this is crazy. Like, I could have sold 20 or 30 of these things, you know. But I'm glad I didn't, because they took forever. I mean, I had to spend 3 months painting those things, because I had to paint her tattoos on her
Oh
arms,
yes.
which took forever.
Oh my gosh.
Right there.
Yep.
And
And
then
you
I had
hand
to paint.
painted
I had to
that.
paint.
You did
Yes,
not
I had
have
to
her printed.
No, I had to paint all this. I had to
Wow.
paint all this. I had to cut out these feathers. These are real cockatoo feathers.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
You know, and then like coordinating with the costume designer to make all this stuff. It was. I probably lost 4 months of work just doing the figures. So this stuff adds up, and that's why the books are late, because you're trying to do all this other stuff. I don't regret it though. You know, like did I bite off probably more than I could chew? No, but did it slow things down? Absolutely. Oh, thanks, appreciate it. It's
Yeah.
been fun. This is great. I haven't done this in a while. I don't stream that much because I'm just so busy these days.
Thank you. Most wives don't allow this display of posters.
Especially if they got her on them, they probably really won't.
What's that for?
I
I would be the one putting it up, and my husband would be like, honey.
You have something you want to tell me,
That's
honey?
really nice, but
Yeah, that's awesome.
oh man, I'm so glad everybody enjoyed it. Thank you for coming out and for putting up with my nooberness, whatever you call it. This has been really fun, and I would love
Yeah,
to do this again
definitely.
if you are wanting to do this again.
Of course. It's been a
Okay,
blast. Thanks, Megan.
you are very
Thank you,
welcome.
chat.
Bye, chat. You're amazing.